Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. Long before kingdoms carved borders into the earth, before steel learned the taste of war, the sky itself had guardians. They were not yet the monsters that future ballads would fear. They had no hordes, no thrones of bone, no names soaked in ash. They were simply called the Old Scales. For ages, the old scales drifted across the high currents of the world's first winds, their wings trailing quiet shadows over mountains and seas. Where they passed, storms relaxed, forests stilled, the ocean's rage softened to a gentle sway. It was said that each dragon carried a different law of the world upon its body. One scale for thunder, one for tide, one for memory, one for sleep. If you could listen closely enough, elders whispered, you might hear them singing. Not with voices, but with their very presence. A low, slow resonance that kept the world from tearing itself apart. Among all of them, one dragon was different. One dragon whose song had never tasted blood. In the high cradle of the northern mountains, where the clouds often fell asleep against the peaks, there lived a dragon named Elther. The name was not spoken by human tongues. It was carried by mountain winds. It lived in the creak of snow, in the hush of pine forests, in the stillness that followed distant thunder. While other dragons watched over storms and shifting seasons, Elther kept vigil over something else. Silence. Not the heavy silence of dread. Not the choking silence of sorrow. A gentle kind of silence, the calm that comes after crying, after shouting, when hearts are too tired to break anymore. Elther's scales were not bright like molten gold, nor dark like midnight embers. They were the color of cooled iron after rain. Muted silver, quiet and deep, each one etched with fine patterns that looked almost like writing. Unlike his kin, Elther had never burned a village. He had never torn armies apart. He had never drawn blood. Not once. This made him strange in the stories that would come later. Ballads preferred dragons whose claws wrote history in fire. Kings and generals preferred monsters that could be slain to prove their glory. So the world above, the world of human words, would mostly forget him. But the mountains remembered, the clouds remembered, and somewhere in the far threads between waking and dreaming, a single scale remembered too. On the other side of the world, far from the northern peaks, there stood a small hill village where the earth was red and the rivers ran brown with clay. They called it Caritha's Rest, though no one could say who Carith had been or why he needed rest. In this village lived a boy named Elon. He was small for his age, quiet, the sort of child whose footsteps always seemed to apologize to the ground. While others wrestled in the dust or practiced with wooden spears, Elon preferred to sit under the lone fig tree and listen. He listened to the wind scraping gently against the clay roofs, to the rattle of tools from the potter's yard, to the dry whisper of grass along the hillside. Most of all, he listened to stories. At night, when the work was done and the fires burned low, The elders would gather the children and speak of the days when the earth was young. Some told of heroes, some of gods, some of monsters with jaws like collapsing cliffs. But there was one tale Elon loved above all the others, even though it was the shortest and the least believed. It was the story his grandmother whispered to him alone. The story of a dragon that had never tasted blood. Her name was Sabareth, though everyone simply called her Old Reth. Her hair was white as ash, her back bent like a bough forgotten in the rain. Yet her eyes were sharp and dark, like two pieces of night that refused to leave. "Come closer, Elon," she would murmur when the others had drifted off to sleep. "The others don't care for this one. They only want wars and flames. But you're a child of quiet." He would sit at her feet, pulling his thin cloak tighter, the shadows of the fire dancing over the walls. "Long before these hills had names," she would begin, "there was a dragon in the northern mountains who refused the taste of blood. While others carved their names into stone with fire, he chose a different song." "What kind of song?" Elon would ask, every time, even though he knew the words by heart. "A song of stillness," she said, "and of peace." She would trace slow circles on the earth with one bent finger. Whenever men marched with iron in their hands, whenever horns blared and banners rose, there would be, for the briefest of moments, a tremor in their hearts, a hesitation, an urge to lower their weapons. "That was him," Elon whispered. "Maybe." Sabareth always smiled a little then. Or maybe it was the world itself, begging its children to rest. But some say it was this dragon's doing. A dragon whose scales carried no stain. A dragon who dreamed of a world without war. "Did he succeed?" Elon asked. "No," she answered every time. "Not yet." "Is he still alive?" She would look toward the distant dark, where the hills sank into the sky. "Some say dragons do not die as we do. They fade into what they guard, storm into clouds, flame into the sun. Perhaps this one faded into silence itself. And if he's gone," Elon would whisper, "what remains?" At that, Sabareth would fall quiet. Then she would say, in a voice soft as the wind under doors, "Sometimes a single scale remains, a memory, a seed, waiting for someone who still believes in a bloodless dragon." The first time Elon saw the scale was in a dream. He did not know he was dreaming at first. He only knew he was no longer in Caritha's rest. The red hills were gone, the clay houses, the fig tree. Instead, he stood in an endless field of pale mist, lit from everywhere and nowhere at once. The air smelled like cooled stone after rain, like Sabareth's stories, like the quiet that followed crying. At his feet lay something small and dull. A stone, he thought. He bent to pick it up. It was not a stone. It was a scale, cool to the touch, smooth, but with fine etched lines threading across its surface like tiny rivers or handwriting in a forgotten language. It was the color of rain on iron, not bright, not dark, but exactly in between. As Elon held it, the mist around him shivered. A low sound rolled through the world. Not thunder, but something older. A steady, deep vibration that hummed in his bones. It was not frightening. Felt like a giant heart, beating slow. Elon pressed the scale to his chest without knowing why. "I know you," he whispered into the mist. He didn't know how he knew, but somewhere between Saba Reth's stories and his own quiet heart, the truth had anchored itself. This scale belonged to the dragon who had never drawn blood. The Bloodless Dragon. Elther. The name came as if carried on a distant wind. It settled on his tongue like a word he had once known and forgotten. "El Techwyar," he said softly. The vibration in the world deepened in response. The mist thickened, curling higher around him, brushing against his shoulders like hands made of cloud. A voice, not heard with his ears, but felt along his skin and inside his ribs, asked, "Do you believe I existed?" Elon's fingers tightened around the scale. Yes. It would have been easy to ask whether he was talking to a dragon or a memory or his own dream, but none of that mattered. He believed. The voice resonated again, softer. "Do you believe I can exist again?" Elon looked down at the scale in his palm. There was no shine, no fire, no promise, and yet he felt an ache in his chest. The same ache he felt whenever he watched the older boys train with wooden spears, shouting and laughing as they pretended to kill unseen enemies. He thought of the stories of real wars, the ones Saba Reth spoke of when she forgot the little ears around the fire. He thought of how tired her voice sounded then. "I don't know how," he answered honestly, "but I want you to." The mist grew very still. For a moment Elon heard nothing. Not the hum, not his own breath. Then gently like a sigh, "Then keep the scale." He looked down. The iron-colored piece of dragon armor lay quiet in his palm. "Why me?" he asked. The answer rang through him like the quietest of bells. "Because you are a child of quiet, and peace always begins in quiet hearts." The mist folded inward. The sound faded. The field dissolved. Elon woke with his hand clenched around nothing. The dawn light, the ordinary dawn, not the first dawn of creation, seeped through the cracks in the clay wall of his small room. Outside, roosters argued with each other. Someone shouted for water. Pots clinked. He lay there for a long moment, listening to the familiar noises of Caratha's rest returning to life. Then he slowly opened his hand. There was nothing there. No scale. No shimmer. Just the faint imprint of the curve his fingers had made around emptiness. For a little while that was enough to make him doubt. Perhaps it had only been a story that slipped too far into his sleep. Perhaps his wish for a world without war had simply wrapped itself in Saba Reth's tales and worn them like a cloak. He sat up, swung his feet to the floor, stood. The morning felt like any other, until he saw it. On the windowsill, where the clay met the thin strip of sky, something lay half-hidden in shadow. Small, dull, the color of rain on iron. Elon's breath caught. He stepped closer slowly, as if the slightest movement might frighten it away. There, resting quietly as though it had always belonged to his small room, lay a single dragon scale cool, muted silver, etched with fine lines like sleeping rivers. He reached out, this time when his fingers closed around it. It stayed. For a long moment, Elon could only stare at the scale resting on his windowsill. Morning light washed over it in pale gold, yet the scale refused to shine. It absorbed light rather than reflecting it, like a memory choosing to stay humble. He reached out cautiously. When his fingers closed around it, the coolness slipped into his skin, spreading up his arm in a wave that felt like a steadying breath. Just as in the dream, the scale was real, and that meant the dragon Elther was real too. Or at least, something of him remained. Elon held the piece to his chest, half expecting the faint voice of the mist to return, to whisper some ancient truth. But nothing spoke, only the distant clatter of pots, the cough of waking villagers, the wind rustling through the clay cracks. Yet even in silence Elon felt watched, not by danger, by possibility. He practically flew from his room, bursting through the door into the warm morning air. Sabareth was already awake, sitting beneath the shade of the fig tree with a bowl of soaking lentils. Her eyes lifted as Elon approached, slow, steady, piercing. "Child," she murmured, "your feet sound like thunder. What troubles you?" Elon dropped to his knees before her, breathless. "I saw him." "Who?" "The dragon, the bloodless one." Old Reth's fingers paused in the water. Not a twitch, not a gasp, just a stillness deeper than silence. "And?" she asked softly. "I brought something back." He opened his palm. The scale lay there, muted silver, rivers of etched patterns catching the shadows beneath the fig leaves. Sabareth inhaled sharply, the first time Elon had ever seen fear cross her features. Not fear of evil, fear of meaning. She touched the scale only with the tips of her fingers, as though respecting a relic. "Oh, Elon," she whispered, "you should not have been able to bring this from a dream." "But I did." His voice trembled. "What does it mean?" Old Reth stared toward the distant hills. "It means," she said, "he is not gone after all. But dragons disappear into what they guard. You told me." "Yes." Her finger traced the tiny etched patterns. "Storm dragons vanish into clouds. Fire dragons into the sun. Memory dragons into the deep earth." "And Elther?" Elon asked. "Elther guarded peace." Her voice cracked. "So if a piece of him returned to you, then somewhere, peace is beginning to wake." That afternoon, Elon climbed the ridge overlooking the village. He held the scale tightly, feeling its faint, steady hum. It wasn't loud, not like a heartbeat, not like a song, more like the breath between two words. As the warm wind climbed the hill, dust swirled around him. The air shifted, not colder, not sharper, quieter. The wind's usual whistle softened, the rustling grass stilled, and Elon felt the same presence as in his dream, a vast gentleness hiding just out of sight. "Are you here?" he whispered. No voice answered, but the silence deepened, wrapping around him like a cloak. The same feeling Sabareth had described. The same hush that fell before armies lowered their weapons. The same moment of stillness before a heart decided not to harm. Elther's presence. Even if faint, even if broken, the scale hummed. A question formed inside Elon. Not spoken aloud, not delivered by any voice, but rising from within the scale itself. Would you carry me? Elon pressed it to his chest. Yes. The hum steadied like approval, and something else stirred within the wind. A faint ripple, a tremor of danger approaching far from the village. Not war, but unrest. Something waking on the horizon. Something that did not want peace. The scale shivered as if feeling a distant wound. Elon opened his eyes wide. Is that why you came back? He whispered. Because something is coming? The hum did not answer, but silence tightened around him, and Elon understood. The world was beginning to stir again. Old forces were shifting. Something long asleep was stretching its limbs, and a dragon who once refused to draw blood was choosing a child to remember him. That night Elon dreamt again. He stood in the same pale mist holding the scale. This time the mist moved. Waves of silver rolled like approaching footsteps. The deep hum returned, trembling through the air, and the voice from before, ancient, soft, patient, whispered, "You kept the scale." "Yes," Elon said. "Should I not have? You chose peace." The mist glowed faintly, like moonlight through snow. "Why me?" Elon asked again, unable to stop the question. The voice answered with warmth. "Because I am waking, and I cannot wake alone." The mist rippled, and Elon caught a glimpse of a great silhouette in the far distance. Wings like mountains folded against the sky, a body coiled like a storm cloud learning to breathe. Elther, half in dream, half in memory, half in something else entirely. The dragon spoke. "A shadow grows over the northern passes. I can feel its hunger again. A hunger without thought." Elon clutched the scale tightly. "What do you need me to do?" The voice softened into something like a sigh. "Walk." "Where?" "Toward the mountains." Elon froze. "The northern mountains? They're weeks away. I'm just a boy." "Yes," the dragon murmured. "And that is why you may succeed." Echo of thunderless sound rolled through the dream. "Peace cannot be carried by kings," Elther whispered. "They have forgotten how to walk without weapons." The mist lifted. The dream began to dissolve. Elther's voice faded with it. "Carry my scale, and I will carry you." Darkness closed. Elon woke with tears on his cheeks. Not from sorrow, but from something deeper, purpose. The next morning, Elon stood beneath the fig tree. His small pack lay at his feet. Sabareth leaned heavily on her walking stick, her eyes storm-dark. "You've chosen," she said quietly. "I have to go. I know." She reached out with trembling fingers and touched his cheek. "You carry something old and powerful, child. But strength is not only in the thing carried. It is in the heart that carries it." "I'm scared," Elon whispered. That is how you know you are walking the right road. He hugged her. Then, with the dragon scale pressed against his chest beneath his tunic, Elon turned toward the northern horizon, toward mountains wrapped in clouds and silence. A place where a dragon once dreamed of peace. A place where something else now stirred. He stepped forward. The scale warmed. And somewhere far away, in the cradle of ancient snow, an old dragon exhaled, and the mountains trembled. Elon had never traveled beyond the red hills of Caratha's Rest. The world felt enormous the moment he stepped past the last clay house, past the fig tree, past the bend in the earth where village voices faded into dust. He carried only a small pack, a skin of water, a heel of bread, 2 figs sabareth tucked inside without telling him, and the scale pressed firmly to his chest beneath his tunic. The air grew cooler as he walked north. Hours became days. Villages became scattered. The soil darkened. The sky stretched wide enough to swallow him. Yet each night, when he lay beneath trees or under open sky, the scale warmed. The same soft, steady hum. He never felt alone. By the 4th day, Elon reached the banks of the river Saru, a long dark ribbon slicing through the land. Its waters murmured under the rising moon. He knelt to drink, but the river hissed, not loudly, not angrily, a warning. Ripples formed even though no wind touched its surface. The scale against Elon's chest vibrated sharply. "What is it?" he whispered. Then he heard them. Footsteps. Human. Armed. Dozens moving through the brush. Elon hid behind a fallen trunk as a column of men marched past the river, dust clinging to their clothes, spears strapped to their backs. Their faces were tight with fear, not anger. He listened as they spoke. "Captain says the mountain pass is cursed. No birds for miles. Something's breathing up there. It's not wolves. Wolves don't make the earth shake." The scale pulsed violently. Elther, or something near him, something waking, something unhappy. When the soldiers were gone, Elon stepped from hiding. The river's surface settled. Its warning faded. The scale cooled into a whisper. "Thank you," Elon murmured to the water. The river only glimmered, as if bowing. That night his dream returned. But this time there was no mist. Only a mountain, vast, white, ancient, rising like a sleeping titan beneath a sky full of unwoken stars. Elther's voice trembled through the air. "You come closer." Elon stood barefoot on snow that wasn't cold. "I heard soldiers," Elon said. "They fear the mountain." "They should," Elther replied. "Fear keeps war from climbing too quickly." "What is on the mountain?" A pause. Then, "Me, and something that hunts memory." Elon shivered. "What do you mean?" Elther's vast silhouette flickered, as though his presence struggled to remain whole. "There are creatures born from what the world forgets. When peace is forgotten, they grow strong." Elon stepped forward, heart tight. "Are you hurt? Is that why the scale came to me?" "Yes," Elther whispered. "My song weakens. My breath fades. and something without a name creeps through my dreams. The mountain trembled under Elon's feet. I'm coming, he promised. Elther's voice softened like falling snow. I know. The dream dissolved. By the 6th day, Elon reached the foot of the northern spine. The jagged mountain range locals feared even in daylight. Snow began earlier than expected. The wind carried a strange hush. Birdsong died entirely. The path twisted sharply upward, and with every step the scale grew warmer. Not painfully, but urgently. It was guiding him. He pressed a hand to it. "Show me," he whispered, and the world shifted. A pulse rippled through the mountain. A soft glow spread under Elon's feet, as if the stones themselves were remembering something. Images flickered across the snow. Elther soaring above the peaks, wings casting shadows of peace. Armies halted mid-charge as his presence washed over them. Children laying down stones of anger. Mothers lowering their raised hands. Warriors dropping spears to their knees. The mountain had witnessed it all. Elther's song. A song without blood. The vision faded. Elon breathed shakily. I won't let you disappear. The scale hummed in agreement. As Elon neared the first narrow mountain pass, a cold wind cut across the trail. A wind that carried no scent, no sound, no life. The scale went still, utterly still. Elon froze, and then, from deeper in the pass, a shape moved. It had no form, no color, no outline, like a piece of forgotten night torn from the world. The creature made of memory loss, a thing born from the fading of peace, turned toward him. The mountain groaned. Elon stepped back, heart hammering, but the scale flared like a silver heartbeat. The creature recoiled, shrieking without sound. Elon didn't dare breathe. For a moment, the path hung between silence and collapse. Then the pass widened, just enough for a boy to continue upward. The mountain was letting him through. The creature retreated deeper into the snow, melting into the dark. Elon clutched the scale and whispered, I'm coming, Elther. I'm close. And above him, high in the clouds, a great dragon exhaled in his sleep, the sound rolling across the range like distant thunder. Weak, fragile, waiting for him. The mountain air grew thinner as Elon pressed deeper into the northern spine. Snow drifted in slow spirals, soft as falling ash, each flake melting the moment it touched the scale beneath his tunic. He could feel Elther's presence now, not in voice, not in vision, but in the trembling quiet that wrapped around every stone. The silence here was heavy, not empty, not lifeless, but watching, listening, waiting. Every step Elon took seemed to echo in a chamber larger than the sky. The mountain had become a place suspended between breaths, one held by the world, one held by a sleeping dragon. Please hold on, Elon whispered. The scale warmed faintly in response. As the sun dipped low behind the peaks, Elon reached a narrow clearing. At its center stood a colossal stone arch, carved not by hands or tools, but by time itself, or perhaps by Elther's wings brushing against the mountain as he once soared through it. The arch curved like the ribs of a slumbering giant. Snow clung only to its outer edges. The inner span remained untouched, as if protected by an invisible heat. Elon stepped closer. The moment his foot crossed beneath the arch, sound vanished. Not softened, vanished. The wind stopped. The falling snow froze midair for a heartbeat before drifting down again. His own breathing muffled, swallowed by a blanket of impossible calm. He gasped and looked around. It felt like stepping into the exact moment before a prayer is spoken. Elther's moment. The arch pulsed gently with an unseen rhythm, the same rhythm Elon felt through the scale. He pressed a hand to one of the stone pillars. A whisper rippled through him. "Do not fear." Elther's voice, weak but present. "I'm here," Elon whispered back. "Where are you?" "Ahead, below, between." A soft exhale like a dying ember. "I am slipping, but I am not gone." The archway led into a narrow cliff path carved into the mountainside. The wind howled below, but on the path itself silence ruled. Halfway across, the scale stiffened against Elon's chest. He froze. The shadows in front of him moved. They peeled themselves from the stone, coalescing into a shape that refused to obey the rules of form. A ripple of night, a smear of emptiness, a creature made from the world's lost memories, a thing born from every peace forgotten, every kindness dismissed, every mercy left unoffered. The same kind of creature he saw at the pass, only larger, stronger, hungrier. The shadow creature slid across the path, leaving frost where it passed. Its presence hollowed the air around it, pulling at Elon's thoughts like claws made of forgetting. He stumbled back, clutching the scale. "Stay back," he whispered, though his voice barely existed in the arch's silence. The creature twisted its head, if it even had a head, toward him. A soundless shriek tore through the air. Elon dropped to his knees, head ringing. Images blurred. Faces he loved flickered. Sabareth, the fig tree, the river, the world, all fading. No. He forced the scale upward. The moment his hand lifted it, silver light radiated outward like a quiet sunrise. The shadow creature recoiled violently, its body warping as if struck by a memory it could not consume. The silver glow pulsed. The creature disintegrated into drifting ash. The air returned. Elon fell forward, breath shaking. The scale cooled. "I'm sorry," Elon whispered to it. "I wasn't ready." But the scale warmed again, gentle, forgiving. Beyond the arch, Elon found what he had not expected. Footprints, massive ones, not clawed, not burned into the ground, not torn through the earth, but soft, as though a great weight had tried not to disturb the snow, as though a dragon had walked here gently. He knelt beside one, pressing his small hand into its depression. The snow inside was not cold. "Elther," he breathed. The dragon had passed here recently, but the footprints overlapped with streaks of darkened snow. Signs of struggle, signs of something chasing him. Elon rose. The mountain trembled underfoot, not violently, but like a creature stirring in its sleep. The scale throbbed in warning. He followed the footprints, upwards. After an hour of climbing through thickening snow and thinning air, he saw it, a massive cavern mouth carved into the mountainside. Not shaped by nature, shaped by breath, dragon breath. Silver dust clung to the edges of the cavern, shimmering faintly, like stardust trapped in frost. Inside, a dim glow pulsed. Elon stepped closer, heart pounding. The moment he entered, he felt it. Warmth, not heat. Warmth. Soft, steady, ancient. A presence that wrapped around his bones. Elther, Elon whispered. The glow brightened, and there, sprawled across the cavern floor, wings curled inward, scales dulled like moonlight hidden behind storm clouds, lay the dragon, enormous, quiet, alive, barely. Elther's eyes were closed, each breath a trembling effort that sent ripples through the snow. Near his flank, a wound pulsed. Not a cut, not a burn. An absence. A hollow. A piece of him the shadow creatures had devoured. Elon approached slowly, tears blurring his vision. He rested his hand against a scale the size of his torso. Warm. Very warm. The dragon's eyes flickered open, dim silver beneath heavy lids. Child of quiet. The voice echoed weakly through the cavern. You came. I promised, Elon whispered, choking on the words. I promised I'd come. Elther inhaled painfully. The world forgets peace. I know, Elon said. But I haven't. The dragon's gaze softened. Then I am not lost. The scale pressed against Elon's chest glowed fiercely, pulsing like a second heart. Silver threads lifted from it, thin as smoke, bright as moonlit water, and drifted toward Elther's wound. The dragon shuddered. You must decide, he whispered. A scale cannot serve two hearts. Elon froze. What do you mean? If you give it back, it will mend me. A pause. Long. Trembling. But you will lose your connection to my dream. And if I keep it? Elon whispered. The cavern darkened slightly. Then I will fade. But you will carry peace into a world that desperately needs it. Elon's chest tightened. The dragon's breath thinned. The glow dimmed. He had to choose. Elther's life, or the world's memory of peace. The scale pulsed urgently. Elon pressed it to his heart. I don't know what to do. The dragon's voice reached him like the last note of a dying lullaby. Listen to your quiet, Elon. Peace is not chosen with the mind. It is chosen with the part that wishes not to harm. Elon closed his eyes. The cavern waited. The mountain held its breath. The world hovered between remembering and forgetting. And a boy with a dragon's scale in his hands, prepared to decide the fate of an ancient dream. The cavern felt smaller now, not because the mountain had shifted, or because Elther's immense body filled the space, but because Elon's world had narrowed to a single decision. The scale in his hands warmed with each trembling breath he took. Give it back, and Elther would live. Keep it, and peace itself would have a champion. A living voice in a world beginning to forget. Elther's eyes dimmed like dying starlight. Elon, choose gently. I don't want to lose you, Elon whispered. Elther's breath rattled like snow cracking beneath a buried river. Peace always costs something. The mountain shuddered. Outside, the wind howled, the kind of howl that carried no animal, no storm, no voice. A hollow howl. The shadow creatures were gathering. Time was running thin. Elon closed his eyes. He tried not to think of fear, not of loneliness, not of failing someone ancient and beautiful. He listened, not to the wind, not to the mountain, but to the quiet inside himself. The quiet that had always followed him. Soft, gentle, honest. The quiet Elther had recognized. Slowly Elon understood. Peace was not something you guarded from far away. Peace had to move, had to walk, had to speak. Elther's peace could not be locked inside a mountain forever. His fingers tightened around the scale. I know my choice, he whispered. Elther exhaled. A sound half relief, half sorrow. Then give me your answer, child of quiet. Elon opened his eyes and pressed the scale, not to Elther, but tighter against his own heart. I will carry it, he said. I will carry you. Elther did not roar. He did not rage. He did not plead. He simply closed his eyes, and for the first time since Elon had seen him, the ancient dragon began to weep. Not with water, not with blood, but with light. Silver droplets formed beneath his eyes, glowing softly as they fell and melted into the cavern floor. Then I fade, he whispered. No, Elon cried, wrapping both arms around the nearest scale the size of a shield. I don't want you to disappear. I will not vanish, Elther said gently. I will become what I guarded, just as all dragons do. Elon shook his head violently. If you disappear, how will I know what to do? Elther's voice softened into a warm gust of air that brushed Elon's hair back. Because you chose with a heart that refuses harm. Peace remembers those who walk it. The mountain roared. Not from Elther. From outside. A scream, silent and crushing, rolled through the stone walls. The shadow creatures had reached the cavern. Elther's remaining strength flickered. They smell forgetting. Elon stood, holding the scale like a lantern of muted light. The cavern entrance darkened. Then the first shadow slithered in, the shape bending wrong, its presence hollowing the air, its existence swallowing memory. It lunged. Elon raised the scale. Silver light burst forward. The creature screeched in silence and recoiled, but more poured in behind it. Dozens. Hundreds. Elther groaned, wings twitching weakly. I cannot protect you now. You weren't supposed to. Elon shouted. He stepped forward, the scale glowing brighter and brighter. The creatures shrank from it like dying embers. Elther watched him, with pride, with sorrow, with hope older than mountains. The cavern trembled. Snow fell from the ceiling like drifting feathers. Elther's voice weakened. Elon, Come closer. The boy backed toward him, never lowering the scale. When he reached Elther's face, the dragon pressed his snout gently against Elon's shoulder. Touch like a blessing. You are my final song. Elon sobbed. No, stay with me. Teach me. Walk with me. I cannot walk anymore. Elther's light flickered violently. But I can become the road. The dragon's breath deepened. A long, slow inhale that pulled the shadows back. Then a soft exhale that rolled through the cavern like a wind made of memory. Silver dust rose from his body. His form collapsed inward, not crumbling, not dying, but dissolving, becoming mist, becoming quiet, becoming peace. The mountain shook once, as if bowing. Then Elther was gone. Only the faint warmth of the scale remained. Elon fell to his knees, clutching it. I'm so sorry, he whispered. But the scale pulsed gently, not in pain, not in grief, in reassurance. Elther had not died. He had transformed into the very peace he had spent his life protecting. The shadow creatures hissed at the cavern's edge, too afraid to enter fully, too hungry to retreat. They circled, waiting for Elon to falter. But Elon rose. He held the scale high, not as a weapon, but as a promise. I'm not alone, he whispered. Not anymore. For the first time, the scale flared bright, silver lines glowing like writing, like rivers, like veins filled with starlight. And the shadows recoiled. The mountain trembled. Elther's breath, now part of the wind, swept through the cavern. The creatures shrieked without sound and dissolved like smoke. Snow settled. Silence returned. Not heavy, not fearful, gentle, peaceful, alive. Elon stood in the center of the cavern, lit by the dim glow of the scale. He felt it now, not as a weight, but as a pulse, promise, a song, Elther's song. It flowed through his chest, warm as dawn. A voice, soft, distant, yet unmistakable, whispered inside him. Walk, Elon. Peace moves. And so must you. The boy wiped his tears, steadying his breath. He tightened his grip on the scale. And for the first time since the beginning of the world, a dragon's song was carried by human footsteps. The cavern was no longer a place of fear. Shadows had fled. Snow had settled. The cold air trembled with a quiet that felt less like emptiness and more like the echo of something sacred. Elther was gone, but not dead. Gone the way rivers become clouds, and clouds become rain, and rain becomes rivers again. Gone in the way peace hides inside tired hearts and waits patiently to be remembered. Elon stood alone, the silver scale pulsing softly in his hand. A heartbeat without a body, a memory without a tomb. He pressed it to his chest. The warmth spread through him, Elther's warmth. The dragon had become the quiet surrounding him. At the cavern entrance, one last shadow creature lingered. Elon stepped forward, raised the scale, and the creature dissolved into silver dust. The mountain exhaled. Outside, clouds parted. Light spilled across the peaks. Snow shimmered like dragon breath. A whisper formed inside him. Walk! And Elon walked. Each footstep hummed with silver quiet. The mountain remembered his steps. 2 sets of prints appeared in the snow, his and Elther's. By evening he reached the valley. Villagers felt a strange peace around him. A peace that quieted arguments, softened anger. A peace the world had forgotten. What is that feeling? A soldier whispered. Peace, Elon answered. Night rose. Stars glimmered like scattered scales. Elon whispered, Elther, are you still with me? A voice inside him replied, As long as you choose peace, I will never leave you. And a boy carrying a dragon's dream took his first steps into a world that had nearly forgotten itself. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth.